Welcome to Thank You for Your Reply, where we dive deep into the strategies and insights of real estate's most innovative professionals. I'm your host, Rich Pedersen, founder of the Reply AI. At the Reply AI, I take a consultative approach to helping businesses integrate automations and AI tools so they can get back to working on their business, not in it. In each episode of the podcast, we explore the real practices driving success in today's market. No fluff, no pitches, just real conversations with real experts sharing real results. Before we dive in, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Your engagement helps keep the show running. Without further ado, here we go. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Thank You for Your Reply podcast. Today, we're talking to Joan Brothers, the CEO of Manhattan Boutique Real Estate in New York City. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Rich. I appreciate it.
So just to get us started, if you could just introduce how you kind of came into this business and the nutshell of how you ended up opening your boutique real estate.
Sure. Well, as Rich said, as you said, I am the CEO and founder of Manhattan Boutique Real Estate. I've been in the business of real estate in Manhattan, sort of worldwide, for over 25 years. And certainly as a woman-led business have done, we say, over 500 million in transactions in a variety of different real estate businesses, because there are many in the real estate business, but our main focus has been international clientele, high net worth individuals, and also just in general, the luxury business, because New York City, no matter how you slice it, is the luxury business. So we are very client-centered focused, and we look at everything through that lens of basically, we take great care of our clients and we think of that relationship in the long run as well. So you asked how we kind of got started. Manhattan Boutique Real Estate, when I went after being in business under somebody else's umbrella, I thought, who else is doing real estate in the way I would like to see it done, and taking really good care of clients without thinking about, how much time to give. And really, I found that I think I needed to create my own firm. So that's when in 2013, Boutique Real Estate was formed. And we have found that, you do have to take really good care of your clients and you can't rush things, but it always pays back in spades, because in the end, you remain long-term friends with them. There's a lot of referrals and you have the success in what you're doing, and it makes you feel good.
That makes sense. And so on your jump into some stats here. So you're in a previous conversation, you mentioned that you do about 50 transactions annually as a boutique
Correct.
firm. What specific metrics convinced you this was the right volume for maintaining service quality, and how do you track your success beyond
Boy,
transaction numbers?
that's the AI metrics person in you, right?
Yeah.
So I have to say, we are probably more words than numbers oriented, more consciousness and intuition focused than quant. So I would say it's just a question of, if you have more people, you can have more transactions. And of course, the quality of people is based on the networks that you have and the clients and the type of properties that you sell. And honestly, in real estate, what's interesting is that you have situations where sometimes a luxury market, 4 million and above, like a true luxury market, 4 million above, doesn't sell for years. Have been terrible statistics about that. So you have to, yes, you can sell something that's 4 million or 14 million or 40 million, but those don't transact that often. Sometimes 4 million, yes, but the larger ones now, luxury in New York City is moving, but there were years where it wasn't. So you really do have to diversify, in a way, your portfolio of properties that you represent and the clientele that you represent. You can represent the parents who are buying a more expensive apartment, and then you can represent the child, so to speak, or the young professional who's just getting started. So you have to be sort of open in different areas, but in general, we do sort of cater to international, we cater to high net worth individuals, but to break it down requires almost like building by building, size type of apartment by size. It's a lot more complicated. I always get nervous, and I say every year, oh my gosh, what if this year won't be a great year? And in the end, it is a great year, even if it's a bad year for, let's say, the stock market, or if it's a recession or something like that. there can be one or two clients that pull through and make it an excellent year for the company, because people buy at different times for different reasons. And I find, for example, when there's chaos and the general population is afraid to make a move, the really smart, I would say the smart money, the smart people are saying, here's an opportunity for me to grab something I want at a negotiated price. So I think that's I've learned a lot from clients over the years, and that's what I always see. But that's why I'm saying to you, it's very hard to do the metrics in the business because there's so many variables you can't control.
So you've mentioned in previous time when we talked that you use HubSpot as your CRM and
Correct.
Hootsuite for social media.
Love Hootsuite. Although, I have my office uses it. And so I've heard some pushback on it a little bit about how it's used now. Some of it's not as perfect as it was, let's say, a few years ago. But I can't speak to exactly what the issue is with it. But I think sometimes now we have to manually enter our social media directly into because the connectivity is maybe not as good as it used to be. I don't know. Maybe you have an idea about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just so many pieces of software out there now that you can do these things with, and they all differentiate a little bit, and um,
Yes.
so it's challenging to. And Hootsuite is one of the more older ones, is more established, but I haven't used it. I remember looking at it a long time ago, but I haven't used it, and maybe they just didn't have evolved with the times as much or something. I
Right.
don't know.
That makes sense.
I think that's pretty common in real estate in general. Like people are using kind of cobbling together things and
Yes.
get kind of entrenched in using one, and then
You
it's
get
hard to.
used to something and then you don't know about better options. And honestly, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know if you see this, but I'm overwhelmed by people sending emails or texts or whatever, or LinkedIn, whatever connection about use this AI for this. And it's hard to know what will be very of service to you.
Yeah, and you can't have like 15
No, it's really hard to
subscriptions.
manage. Yeah.
So yeah, so you're using the CRM and all that, but your firm does like white glove service.
Yes.
Do you have how do you balance that? How do you manage the white glove service
Okay.
in this market?
In this market, right. Well, where everybody needs personalized service. I mean, really, when you're interacting with the people that is your client at that moment, or, the agents in my firm are, and usually I'm involved with the client a bit, you really are talking to them all the time, going over everything with them. You're really in touch. Sometimes, when you're doing with the transaction, there's a lot of paperwork in New York. And it's really like, you have to reveal every piece of your financials because you can't get into a building. I mean, you can, but even in a condo, you can get into the building, but you have to reveal your finances. In a co-op, which is 75% of the market in New York City, you have to really reveal all of your financials, and you're judged on it and you can be rejected, which I think there's very few places, maybe DC and Florida, which has that kind of weird system. Because most places you buy a house, oh, I like the house, great. You put down the money, you maybe mortgage it, maybe your cash, and you can close in a few weeks or a month. In New York, it can take up to 3 months, which everybody's always so surprised about because you have so many people in the mix of. So you've agreed you like a property. Let's say it's a co-op, which is again 75% of the marketplace, which is more of a New Yorker's property, but again, New York is global. So then you apply to the building and then they have to accept you. The application shows all your financials. You have to talk about what you make, how much your assets are, what are your liabilities, what's your income, what's your projected income. So you can really be judged and rejected. So in other words, you're not guaranteed the property until the board meets you physically or via Zoom. Zoom is a new thing, and then you go ahead and then you're approved. But that could take 2 months because your mortgage to get approved in New York takes a month, maybe 3 weeks, but a month. So you've got all these variables, putting your board package in, then the managing agent has to review it. That could take 2 weeks. And then the board reviews you. That could take a month. It could take less. I mean, it's all these things that I don't think you reproduce this anywhere else.
Yeah,
And then
that's the first time I'm
yeah,
learning about it.
it's a little crazy. So when I talk with associates around the, as I mentioned to you before, Lux Places we're associated globally with, and they'll say, "Well, what's your business like?" And I'll say, "Oh yeah, but it takes 3 months to close." And everybody's like, "I'm sorry, Joan, I don't think I think my Zoom call it like blocked out." And I'm no, 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 it's true. So for co-ops, it really does, even if you're all cash, and then you have to wait for the managing agent to approve you. After the board approves you, and then they have to get their paperwork together, and then the lawyers have to find time to close. So you get all these people in the mix. In a condo market, which is more the international market because it's like fee simple property and you can rent it. So it's like an asset class, stocks, bonds, real estate, and the real estate can be rented. That more people pay cash for. It's probably a more luxury crowd. And that could technically be faster, but faster might be if everything worked, maybe a month, but it really is probably two. So it's just amazing the long term process. So you really do need to be in touch, and probably by the board package part, your clients and you not in love with talking to each other all the time. Then the deal closes and then you're in love with each other again. So it all works, but it's a process in New York. And that's why it's important to be represented by somebody, really.
Yeah, that's interesting. Um, so you guys, your firm focuses on organic growth and referrals
Yes.
rather than any kind of like paid outreach or whatever. How do you quantify and demonstrate your value proposition to justify that approach in the luxury market? Or is that like pretty normal for the luxury market?
You mean to have referrals? Yes. I'd say most people, I mean, a first time buyer has to figure out who they want to deal with. So everybody believes that social media is driving so much of that, but it's really the referral is the name of the game. And that's when somebody has to trust you because they're trusting you with a big thing in their life. I mean, it might be the biggest asset they own, you know, it's possible. And that's definitely the case in the rest of the US. In New York, maybe, maybe not, but it is a big thing that they trust you with, and it's very deeply personal. So if something doesn't go right, it's a real negative for them. Yeah, I find that clients, they want to know who you are first because they have to tell you very intimate details of themselves. And I'm going back to the financials. You are seeing them, and I've never met a person looking at their books where they actually everyone always explains, well, I wish I could have been better. I could have been smarter about this. I wish I had done that. And you're thinking to yourself, wait, didn't you create this algorithm that you've made all this money on Wall Street for? But nobody ever feels like they've done enough or they had enough. They always feel they always remember the misses. So it is that reason why it's so deeply personal to people. And that's why they have to find somebody trustworthy who's not going to repeat their details and have a fiduciary relationship with them.
Yeah, it's not a friendship, but a
Yeah,
yeah,
it can develop into a friendship, but it's a partnership. And trust is paramount because the other thing is nobody wants anybody to know what they have, you know.
yeah,
And
agree.
it could be quite
That's
the
true.
opposite. They have quite a lot. They just don't want to be known to have.
Mhm.
Nobody needs to know.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
you're in
that's a
a,
good
a
point.
precious position with people. And that's
Yeah,
it's nice actually to be trusted that way because it creates a lot of trust. And that's when a friendship can grow. Or you have a business transaction with somebody and hopefully it's positive, and that works too.
it's like turns into almost like a doctor-patient privilege
It is.
situation.
Well, is fiduciary response or lawyer fiduciary. Dr.
Yeah,
Patient is probably, some other word, but yeah, you really have a fiduciary responsibility to somebody. And and also the other thing, of course, is that we are sometimes our own worst enemies. So you are dealing on a psychological level with people, helping them get to their next step. And sometimes it's hard for people to overcome obstacles that they can place in front of themselves, which, we help sort of remove, so to speak.
yeah, that makes sense. Um, and when we talked before, you mentioned that you're thinking about adding more agents to your team.
Yes.
What approach are you taking to like identify and attract the right talent? while you
Believe it or
maintain your
not,
standards.
it's referral, or they just come to me. So um, I am considering now adding a sort of consulting piece of that to gathering agents, which could be, of course, utilizing some AI and that sort of thing. And we'll see how that works. I'm not sure that is the way to go, because I found with people that are referred into you, or they like what you do and they come to you, they align with your mission. So you don't have to, and if you don't, if they come to you, they like your mission. Versus if you're looking for somebody, they can always say, "Oh yes, I like what you guys do. Global, cool," but they have no
Yeah,
real interest in it. So you don't know. You don't know the non-known entity.
yeah, yeah. That's true. Um, and you said start taking a consulting approach.
Sure.
How do
I
you
mean,
mean?
I think really the way we see ourselves is we're consultants to people in getting them to their next step in life. And that's with the housing piece of it. Wherever why are they exiting New York? Why are they entering New York? What's their reason? There's ancillary items they may need. Like, for example, if they're coming to live in New York City, if you're international coming to live in New York City, you may be deciding you want your kids to be here. So they may need educational consultants. They'll need international accountants. They'll need all sorts of people to help them launch into success. So obviously we do connect them. Um, but you're really the crutch that people rely on. And it's, again, deeply personal, and you really have to be very kind and thoughtful, but also help them get to the next step, which sometimes requires a little pushing here and there, because New York City is expensive, and the perception that you may not get as much for your money as if you're buying a house in the suburbs of New York City or Connecticut or New Jersey. There are benefits to living in New York City, which are, you know, benefits of living in a city, but New York is truly sensational and unique.
Yeah, it truly is.
I think you said you have someone here.
Well, I've been to New York a few times, and my sister is this big Broadway nerd. So
Yes.
the last time I was there, I went to with her, and we went to see a couple of shows, and
Always fun.
Beetlejuice and Little Shop of Horrors, and
Yep. I mean, there's no shortage of things to do, and it's
yeah, and the
constantly
food obviously
changing.
is the
Yeah.
food is
Yes, right. And every food from every nation is here. So it's really fun. And on
Mhm.
every price point.
Yeah,
That's and each neighborhood, there are neighborhoods which have every kind of cuisine, but then there's some neighborhoods that are specializing because of maybe the local population. So it's those are probably even more fun if you really like a variety of global foods.
yeah, which I do. I'm,
Yeah.
I travel on my stomach, and very,
You're a real foodie. I hear you.
yeah, and former chef and everything, so
Yes.
that
Well,
plays into
right.
it.
That's right. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
So, because sort of on that topic, that you deal with international clients on a pretty regular basis.
Right.
Like you said, 50% of your business coming
Yep.
from
About
global
50%
markets.
is international.
How did that all come about? Like, is that something you sought out, or is it just sort of,
It's
or it
probably
kind of,
something that comes naturally to me. Like I think of myself as a global citizen in the sense of I really like being, I'm very cognizant and I pay attention to world news. And I think everything that happens in the world somehow affects New York. It really does. It's amazing when you see something happening in a different part of the world and you see the reverberation of it back in New York. It's something that I'm always amazed by, but I've seen it enough times to know that that is the case. So I definitely have many friends from around the world. I like traveling. So I think that was just probably a natural attraction for me. And people feel comfortable because they know that's part of who I am.
and we also, when we talked before, you were talking about, you mentioned a transaction you were doing in France where there was someone wanted to
All
buy a
right.
castle, or
Well, it's always interesting because the world is really big and yet it's also small. So one of the things that we were referencing the other day was we are going beyond our New York City border. Of course, we can do referrals and we can be consultants internationally with clients. So I had a client who came to me from a referral. So Chinese client who wanted to do a spa, wanted to buy a castle near Paris and make it part of their extended spa from China. And my associate was in London and we were both working on this together. So that was great fun. In the end, they decided they're going to go to Switzerland and they had a spot that they chose already. So that was unfortunate, but it was a lot of fun to look at castles and or variations of castles. I know you're in France and I know there's castles in one word and then there's many subcategories of that. But then I was in Dubai or I should say UAE in Abu Dhabi, and I met someone, a new friend, and she said, "Oh, are you doing any work in Saint Tropez?" And I said, "Well, I don't have any business there now, but let me see if I can help you." I called the castle brokers. The castle brokers connected me with very good people who were in the south of France, and then we did a transaction in Saint Tropez. So it's people are constantly moving in the world, and that's what makes it fun.
You talked about one of the goals. I don't know if it's just for this year, but it is to add more agents
Yes,
and scaling your business.
yes.
So what are some of the things that you are looking at to decide which aspect of your business to scale?
I think what ended up being very useful for me was looking at the business, analyzing the business from the previous year. So I suppose this is a metric, but it seems more intuitive to me, but it is a metric. So if you analyze your business from the year before and maybe quarterly as well, how many transactions you did, how much income you brought in. I look at the income, but I recognize that many people look at the dollar value or the transactional value of the actual product, even though the company earns a percentage of whatever that transactional value is. And so I think that's probably something that we should do. But what I can see is that I think it's 168. I'll have to go back, but there's 168 of amount. I think it's in the week. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit, have a little allergies and I'm not really as on as I normally am. But,
That's okay.
um, you see where you're spending all your time and you cannot clone yourself. So you have to, I think the way to expand is have additional agents that align with you. And what I'm told is that the 80-20 rule applies, that basically, 20% of the population that you're going to employ as agents is going to do the bulk of the work or going to get the bulk of the income. And that's probably true even with our 10 people, is that I have some people who are come around transactionally once a year. And then I have some that are really working all the time. So I would be looking for probably 5 more really productive agents, and then maybe 10 people who occasionally transact because maybe it's a side business to them, but they're in that world, you know, that sort of thing. So yes, that is the way to expand and for me to be the manager and, have different visions. And of course, do things internationally as well. We really like Dubai. I still like London. And I think Singapore is quite interesting. Some people are talking now about Japan. It's not a market I know, but I do know like a lot of Chinese have migrated or are now spending more time in Japan. So like things constantly change. And of course, everybody had said when London exited Brexit or did Brexit, that Paris was going to become a center for financial or, you know, certain places in Germany. And I'm not sure I've seen that. You would know more about that, about Paris, but not sure I've seen that take over that financial capital of Europe.
So on speaking of the international market,
Yes.
or just your team, how do you structure your team right? I think you have 10 agents right now.
Right.
How do you structure that to like have support to be able
Sure.
to support your staff and maintain the service quality, but also handling local and international
Yep. Well,
markets?
we have a good foundation. Obviously, you need a good foundation for everything. And so we've laid the foundation where we have the consortium of international residential real estate, consortium of US commercial, because internationally commercial, the commission structure and everything varies wildly. So probably in the US, you do get paid quite well. In other places, not well at all. So it's not necessarily a business that a lot of people want to be in. So we just kept that local. Well, I mean, local US.
Yeah.
But I do think that we really like the international part of our business and keeping things open, because things are changing all over the place, and you just have to sort of be on top of it and see what the trends are and hopefully take advantage of it.
Yeah, yeah, that would be interesting. Sort of, I didn't think about that aspect of it because I know just yeah, real estate agents can get paid quite well in the U.S.
Yes, it's interesting, different places, different amounts of money, who pays, everything is local. And also response time, how long it takes for people to get back to you. I had a different experience in Italy, in Sicily, even Sardinia, even, other places in Italy. I did not try Milan, so I cannot speak to the northern Italian, but it was a slower way of responding and dealing with things, even when you sent a client. I found remarkably the people that I met with in south of France or in France were very responsive. And I think they do get paid a commission structure so that it makes them that way. So that is positive. But I think Italy's structuring is very different. Portugal, I found, for example, that you could get paid, let's say 2%, or you could pay 6%. So that's interesting. But then you have to worry about, if you send your client, to make sure that they're getting the right product, because you don't only want your client to be pushed towards something that makes somebody more money. The product has to work for the client. Otherwise, there's no long-term value of you to your client. You really have to think bigger than yourself. You have to think about, again, going back to that fiduciary responsibility, or in plain English, you've got to have their back kind of thing. Yeah.
So on the current market conditions, particularly in the luxury segment, it's shifting from what 4 million plus to potentially 2 million.
So New York's funny because we do define luxury as 4 million. But I think in truth, if you were to compare what you get in New York City to um, the housing market where there are houses outside of city central, everything in New York City is luxury. A simple one bedroom in New York City, that's like in the co-ops that we discussed, which are more New York City property, could be $700,000. In a condo, which is more like an asset class, because you can really trade it, or derive income from it, it's more like $1.2 million as a minimum. So those are still big numbers for, I think, a lot of people. So I'd say luxury exists in New York just in general. And yes, certainly in some of the boroughs, maybe the Bronx is more reasonably priced. Not maybe, it is, but certain sections of the Bronx, there's some luxury houses in like Riverdale, which is a great spot too. And then, Brooklyn is super cool, or some parts of it. So then you actually have a lot of younger people, and I'm sort of just expressing what I'm seeing and as an opinion, who are there because all their friends are there. And that's becomes a preference, and you see different neighborhoods shifting and populations shifting. And there's the cool factor there. Harlem in 2008, 2009, we were doing some developments there, and had all this energy, and it's still a great place to live, but the luxury sector was really picking up in Harlem. It exists still, but I think sort of Brooklyn stole some of the cool for, the 20, I don't know. It was the next big wave, and it's sort of the cooler. Now some places in Queens, because it was cheaper, people came in, they built it up, or there was land where you could build. So not as cool as Brooklyn, but some places are very desirable to live. So it's just a constantly evolving market. Whereas I think, like, for example, in Connecticut, I have some friends I went to visit. I passed by in my car in this one town next to Madison. So Madison, Connecticut is lovely, beautiful, expensive. Next door to it, I won't mention the town, but it was lovely. It looked just like it. But I mentioned to my friends when I was sitting with them, I said, I'd pass by X town and it looks really nice. They're like, well, if you didn't know the barriers, you would have thought it was Madison. So things don't change outside of big cities as much as they do, in the city, where block by block evolves and neighborhoods evolve, and people get really excited to, expand into those neighborhoods. There's always the pioneer, and then the pioneers then there's the other people that follow, and you just see it over and over again, and it's kind of fun.
And then the good restaurants open up and it brings
Yeah.
people and
Yes.
yeah, it's like more.
The Pilates studio, the yoga, that's how you the little bakery. Yeah. All and the retail, which is amazing in New York, is starting to kick back in. We have a retail group and we are just very busy with putting people, boutiques, sometimes a big box company or, a national brand like UPS or something, but amazing how these entrepreneurs are taking their money and starting restaurants or cafes or bars or jewelry stores. It's just amazing that that kind of entrepreneurship still exists, and I love New York for it.
Yeah, it's a truly cosmopolitan
Yes.
city now. With so much, so
Yeah.
much.
So much going for it. Yep. And we love the tourists, of course, because everybody spends money. So
Yeah,
keep coming to New
yeah.
York. It
Based on your journey in New York's luxury real estate market,
Mhm.
what advice would you give about balancing systematic efficiency with like the high touch service that the luxury clients expect?
I'm still trying to figure that out because if you can't remember to call somebody or write an email, or then maybe you don't have a lot of time. Maybe you're too busy for that person.
Mhm.
But I feel like, yes, some of the system, like, for example, we do e-newsletters and we try and have them be meaty and informative to people. Our social media, we try and, utilize all the forms of social media and do a mixture. So, if somebody really wants something meaty to know about what's going on in developments or what's the financing for developments. But then, of course, some celebrity's apartment looks pretty cool and you can, you know, say things about that as well in your sort of social media platforms, or more evenly or interestingly various events that are going on, so people can kind of, I don't want to say live vicariously, but they can see what people are doing, what life is like, why it's so interesting or not interesting. Maybe they're not interested at all, because what you do realize when all these things going on is that somebody's going to be very excited about animal events, or if there's foundations, animal charities. Some people are excited about small business charities. Some people are excited about the UN and all the ancillary things that go on there. So it could be international, local, community driven. It's There's something for everybody, but you can't be in everything.
Yeah, that's true. Then you spread yourself way too thin, and
Yes,
then
exactly.
yeah, then everybody suffers
True.
all the things.
True. Very true.
Yeah. Also, what's what's on the agenda for 2025 for the rest of
Well,
this year?
my agenda is to get out more and enjoy New York. And whenever I get out and enjoy New York, it seems that we have more clients, things are going on. Of course, you have to look at the geopolitical sphere. So some people are holding off on what they're doing, but people have to live. You have to find some place to hang your hat, so to speak, and enjoy your life. And if you like the city life, New York City works out great. So there are some people who are renting, some people who are buying, some people who are leaving. It's just the best time to sell or buy is when it works in your life. Unfortunately, that's really the answer. So we're here to
Yeah,
help.
that's that's the thing I'm struggling with right now is because I'm in the process of in the very beginning process of selling my my house in Astoria, Oregon. But I don't know. I'm on the fence because the market might not be really where it needs to be for me to make it
Ah,
worthwhile. And I have tenants in there, and I don't know. So sort of part
yes.
of me is like,
And you said Oregon, right?
yeah,
Yeah, that's what I thought. I remember our conversation. It seems to me like Oregon has really benefited from California's exodus. Like one of the people in our international consortium is from Bend, and they've
yeah.
said that things have increased. There's activity, but I mean, yes, it's hard. If you don't feel like managing it, or if there's not a lot of headache for you, then I think it's probably worthwhile for you to keep it if it's producing income for you.
It's producing a little bit of income, not a whole lot.
Mm.
It's more kind of feeling like I want to liquidate that asset and have a chunk of change.
That I can understand. I mean, a lot of times outside of, big cities, I think there hasn't been that much appreciation in properties in the US. I think that houses are their their place to live, and you use it and then you sell it and maybe you make a little bit of money. But if it served you those years and now your time to exit and you want to put your money somewhere else, I absolutely think that that works for you because you don't know what next year will be.
Yeah,
It
true.
it should be fine according to all the experts, which
Yeah.
is something and nothing. 2025, it will be more costly in terms of possible goods and possibly services, but I think that people seem to say that we're not going to have, we are going to, business is still as usual. Things are happening, things are transacting.
Yeah, I mean, there was on that same street as mine, a house, my neighbor's house just sold for asking price, basically. So,
Well, that's the answer.
but,
As long as you feel like that price would be acceptable to you and you know that there's asking price or maybe 2% lower or maybe people are bidding up, you have a viable asset to sell, which is great.
yeah, yeah, it's I probably will. It's just part of me is like starting to feel like, oh,
I know. Yeah,
but
that's the thing with people is that real estate is very much, I mean, when do you feel like when you sell a stock, you're like, oh, I'm so sad I'm selling that
oh
stock.
yeah,
No,
you
but
didn't
a
live in the
house
stock.
is very emotional for people. It's amazing. It
Yeah,
so, you feel like you're selling a piece of you,
I definitely feel
really.
that way. This was sort of a meaningful house to me, and
A lot happened in that house. Yeah.
but then the other, I'm also at the once I go past August or whatever, when the 5-year anniversary of buying the house, I go into capital gains territory. So, but that's the other issue. But
Well, I mean, I think good things are going to happen with that.
yeah,
Good
okay,
stuff.
well, yeah,
That's where when I mentioned earlier, we all have to get over ourselves on certain things. It's really hard, right?
yeah,
Very hard. Yeah.
very much. Well, thank you for snuck in a little bit of real estate advice there at the end, or asked for a little bit. But
No, I think that, it's so funny when I walk in the streets, and you just by accident are going by people, you can kind of hear snippets of their conversations. And it's always like something about real estate or, people, that's definitely one of the hot topics on people's minds. Where are you living? What are you doing? Why do you like your neighborhood?
yeah,
What's your motivation for this? Where are you now in your life that you want to do this or that? Yeah.
it's the primary was the most primary thing on that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So,
Yes. Right. Exactly.
so
Exactly. For
not for
sure.
nothing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Joan, for spending the
Rich, thank
time
you
with me
so
today.
much. I really enjoyed talking to you. I think you're incredible. I really appreciate having the
Thank
opportunity
you.
to be here with you. And it looks like it's sunny and beautiful there.
It is. We're getting into 8:30 at night here. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we're getting into the nice bit of spring. So,
All right. Well, thanks again, Rich. I really enjoyed being on your podcast
yeah,
and getting to know you a little bit. And I'll look
yeah.
forward to
Thank you. Well,
hearing about what happens in Oregon.
okay, yeah, I'll let you know.
All right. Thank you.
That wraps up another episode of Thank You for Your Reply. To our listeners, you can find show notes and links below this video, or if you're on audio, it'll be in the show description. If you enjoyed the episode, please like and subscribe so you'll be able to catch the new episodes when they drop. If you'd like to talk to me about how you can optimize your business with tried and true AI technology, please head on over to thereply.ai to get in touch. Until next time, keep innovating, keep growing, and remember, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.